What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. And in this video, we are continuing to talk about the players the Lions selected in the 2020 NFL Draft. And now we are on to the 5th round. Let's get it started.
If you could describe yourself in one word, what would that word be?
A dog.
That is right, everyone. I appreciate the support so far through the series. It has been super fun to learn about these prospects. Hopefully, you guys have learned something about these guys as well. That has been the main goal for me, to teach you about these. Well, not really teach you, but kind of just, show you who these players are the Detroit Lions selected, and hopefully teach you something that maybe you didn't know, maybe give you a crazy stat or something that you haven't heard before. That's kind of what I'm going for. All right, that's really what we're going for with this series. And I just closed my desk like that. That was cool. You don't care, but that was cool. Okay, you all missed out. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions 5th round draft pick. Well, their first 5th round draft pick, Quintez Cephus, the wide receiver out of Wisconsin. A very interesting player and someone that I don't think all the fans exactly were hype about right away. And the reason is because there was another guy available named Donovan Peoples-Jones. And when you have a lot of Michigan fans, I can understand why. Now, I'm going to be real here. I think Nico Collins is better of the two. I think when Nico Collins comes out, man, I hope the Lions select him. If that's next year, please select Nico. I think Nico Collins is an absolute monster. Let me just say that. All right? Peoples-Jones was good, and I love his ability to return and do all these different things. But Nico's something else. I've always liked Nico better. I always him for jump balls and stuff like that. But again, Peoples-Jones did go in the 6th round. We're going to talk about some other players that the Detroit Lions potentially could have taken. And that way you just can have a good idea of maybe who they missed on or who they passed on. Let's start it. Now, 166 was their selection. But at 165, the pick right before, Colin Johnson, the wide receiver out of Texas, went. Now, obviously, they couldn't pick him. I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was really interesting. It was one pick before. I really like Colin Johnson. I'm curious to think, would they have taken him if he was still available? Because I felt like Colin Johnson was a go up and get it type of guy. But maybe they would have, maybe they wouldn't. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. Then after their pick, like one pick after them with Jake Fromm, the quarterback out of Georgia, some people thought we would draft a quarterback to put back there as a 3rd string and possibly groom. We didn't draft a quarterback. We didn't sign a quarterback. So that tells me that David Blau may be that 3rd string, and we may be trying to groom him, which is pretty cool. I'm glad they found someone at least they think they found someone. So let's see what he can become. We saw him a little bit last season. Isaiah Coulter, I think that's how you say it. He was wide receiver, I believe, out of Rhode Island, who at 171. Broderick Washington, who was a defensive tackle, not really that important for us. I mean, maybe we could have went that route. Harrison Hand, the cornerback out of Temple, went to the Vikings. 168, John Hightower, the wide receiver out of Boise State, was selected, so they could have went that route. I think he's a little bit faster. Peoples-Jones, like I said, he went 6th round. So did Isaiah Hodgins, Hodgins is a very consistent and one of those guys that I think, like Quintez, is very polished, and he has great hands, maybe the best hands in college football. But the competition isn't the same, so that's something to definitely keep an eye out for. When you listen to Bob Quinn, he always talks about, getting those guys that play against great competition in college, because it's really hard to find that, right? And he didn't necessarily play against that, so he went 6th round. And KJ Hill went 7th round. I'm not sure why he fell so far. I haven't really looked into him that deep, though, and I probably won't because we didn't select him. But I don't know. Maybe there was probably a reason for it, but I'm not sure. Anyways, we're going to be talking about Quintez Cephus. Now, this is a 6'1", 202-pound redshirt junior wide receiver now with the Detroit Lions. Now, one thing I wanted to do is compare him. I've liked comparing the size to players that are currently on the Lions just to give you guys a little bit of, give you a little bit of context to what I'm saying here. Marvin Jones Jr. is 6'2", 198. So Jones is 1 inch taller and 4 pounds lighter. So I think that's pretty interesting to me. I wasn't expecting that. I always think Marvin Jones is like this big dude. Yeah, I mean, they're basically the same size. So Quintez Cephus just looks like he plays smaller because he plays a lot in the slot. Obviously, Marvin Jones doesn't do that. But I do want to point that out. That way you can get a kind of a feel of, what his size actually is. Now, he's not the athletic player that Marvin Jones Jr. is. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Anyways, in high school, let's hop back to the high school days. He was the first-team All-State player in Georgia in basketball and football. Basketball, he dropped 53 points in a game, which is incredible. 53 points. I wonder what position he played. 6'1". He's probably a guard, maybe. Maybe he's a forward. I don't know how big the school was, but man, 53 points. That's impressive. I couldn't imagine doing that. And then in football, he had 20 yards per reception and 12 touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, he was good. He was good all around in high school, and obviously, that's why he ended up with Wisconsin, and he was their number 1 wide receiver in 2019 because he was a good player. And it wasn't like he was crazy athletic when it came to the 40 time or anything like that. He was just a very good player at football, very polished, which we will talk about. So in 2017, his first year, he had 30 receptions for 501 yards, 16.7 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns. He took 54 snaps in the slot and 324 snaps at the wide receiver. Now, I'm going to point this out when we go through it because the ability to play both positions, the versatility here is very important to me because the Lions look for this at pretty much every position. I mean, now they're going to wide receiver. You know, they're looking for it everywhere. The ability to do that is something that I think is really intriguing. I mean, think about it. Matt Prater's got the position versatility to play both kicker and quarterback. So, you know what I mean? Like, they get all those dudes that can play different spots. So yeah, the ability to play slot I think is huge here with Quintez because of his athletic limitations, you could say. I think it's going to allow him to thrive in a slot role in the NFL. And with his ability to catch the football, I think that's where he may get a lot of time, especially next season when, you know, we got a lot of wide receivers that are gone. So, I got to point that out. 2018, he actually missed the full season. I guess an offensive lineman rolled on the back of his leg when he was blocking. I actually think that was at the end of 2017, I think, and that forced him to miss all 2018. That's maybe why his stats were cut a little bit short. Now, hold up, y'all. I got to hop in real quick and just give you guys this because I did forget to give you guys this in my free agent video. But this is about Quintez Cephus as well. He was expelled from school after the 2018 fall semester after being charged with 1 count each of 2nd and 3rd degree sexual assault. He was acquitted of the charges by jury in August of 2019. Now, Bob Quinn talked about this a little bit, so I do want to give you what he said. He said, "We looked into that legal matter, did our research, and we felt good with it." All right, Quinn said, and like I said, Coach Darrell Bevel has great relationships up there. Talked to football people and people on the campus at Wisconsin, and that thing was in his past. They speak glowingly of this player in person. So I just wanted to point that out because I know some people will probably bring it up. So, I wanted to throw that out there. That's how Bob Quinn feels about it. Overall, I feel like the Lions don't bring in people with, bad history and stuff like that. They just don't do it. They have, the least amount of, players that have been suspended or something. They had that in the NFL. So they don't bring in players that, have troubled histories or stuff like that, or if they're continuing to do it. But again, if they think it's something of the past, then you can see that maybe they'll take the risk on it, just like J. Curse. So I just want to point that out because I know some people will. Let's get back to the video. That sounds awful, so I don't really want to talk about it. But then in 2019, he came back, and he looked really good, and he decided to go to the draft, where he had 59 receptions, 901 yards, 15.3 yards per reception, 7 touchdowns. He took 110 snaps from the slot and 451 snaps from the wide receiver position. So, boom! About 20% of his snaps was from the slot position. So, yes, the ability to do both is definitely there. And he played with a quarterback that is nowhere near Matthew Stafford's level. Okay, I know there's some Wisconsin fans. Not a lot, just a couple. Be real here, though. All right, I know some people hate on me because I like Shea Patterson, but let's be real for a second. Jack Cohn ain't good either, okay? Nah, Jack Cohn's not that good. He threw a lot of high passes, a lot of bad balls, and I was like, okay, this might be good, though. This could be a good thing for Quintez, right? Because, now he's got to work to go get the ball. He's got to have great ball skills. So, yeah, you got to look at the positives in things, all right? He only had 6 drops and over 130 targets, which, again, is pretty impressive. So, yeah. He's with a better quarterback now, and let's talk about these pros and cons, then we'll talk about his role a little bit. Well, the first pro is that I think he's going to be a day one impact type of player, or he could be because he's very polished. This is a player that, again, athletic limitations, but when you watch him, he's ready to go. And with that versatility, I think he can play into different spots. Now, for the Lions, what will his role be? That's a great question. I think he's competing for the 4th wide receiver position with Marvin Hall. Obviously, we have Fulgham, Lacey has to work his way up, but I think those 2 guys will be competing for that position. And depending on who wins that role, I'm not sure. Say he wins the 4th role, then, he'll get a little bit of receptions, maybe like 8 to 10 receptions or targets, I should say, in 2019, unless there's an injury, or 2020, unless there's an injury, then I could see him stepping in. The great thing about Quintez is that ability to play slot and outside is huge for next year. I think that's huge. Depending on how the Lions want to go about it next season, depending on who they bring back, his ability to play both spots is gigantic. And I think that's a huge reason the Lions actually went that route. And what Jeffrey Okudah had to say about Quintez Cephus. Yeah, we'll throw it in now. Let's play the clip.
Quintez Cephus from Wisconsin. I think he's the best receiver I went against. Doesn't matter what his 40 time was. I think that he's a football's played in between the lines, and he's a technician, someone that I'd change my plan up for every single week. I think he might have been the only receiver to have 100 yards against us, and we knew that going against him, we have to earn our keep.
Yeah, that's what Jeffrey Okudah had to say about Quintez. So, yes, a lot of high praise for Quintez Cephus, who a lot of people weren't necessarily happy about when we selected. So, he's great against the press, which is huge. And you just heard Okudah talk about it. He was good against the press versus Ohio State. Now, I saw a lot of times he actually went against Damon Arnett. But the thing you have to remember here is this. Ohio State has 2 cornerbacks that went round 1. Whether he's being guarded or Jeffrey Okudah or Damon Arnett, there's still round 1 talents, I guess, because Damon Arnett went round 1. I didn't think he would, but he did. So, yeah, keep that in mind, all right? Keep that in mind. He went against a lot of good competition in the Big Ten, and that's what Bob Quinn talks about. He wants to get guys that have went against really good competition. That's why he takes a lot of SEC players, because he thinks it's the best conference, or arguably the best conference with the best competition. And it's really hard to find that in college football. It's hard to find guys that are going against competition, so it's hard to gauge players. So, yeah, I think that's one big reason also they went with Wisconsin, and because of what Okuda had to say about Wisconsin. He has great ball skills. This dude can find the football in the air. He has a knack for coming back to the ball. He usually doesn't beat out the cornerback. A couple of times he'll get behind him. I think a lot of times it's just really bad coverage, but a lot of times he's able to make a big play on the ball. And he's not like he's jumping the highest. He's not like got the crazy athleticism, but he's able to adjust his body to reach in front of him, take the ball away. He's got great ball skills. He always is able to find it, except for the one time when the ball hit him in the helmet. Yeah, there was a play versus Ohio State where this dude's running a crossing route. I think it was in the Big Ten championship game. Cone throws it at him and boop, he just keeps running. He didn't even react to it. He just kept running. I was like, okay. I didn't realize that we were going to select that player. So I remember watching that game, and it's crazy. It's like a full circle. Now we selected that player. How did that happen? I don't know. That's wild. I don't know. It's kind of wild to me. Position versatility is another pro, like I pointed out. I won't get into that one anymore because we've kind of talked about that one a lot. His deep reception ability is pretty nice. He was actually 35th in college football with 11 deep receptions, which is basically 20-plus yard receptions. So, man, I mean, he doesn't have that speed or the ability to get by anybody or burn someone, but he does have the ability to catch the ball and make plays on the ball very, very well. And that's something that I feel like that's NFL stuff. That's NFL-ready stuff. And that's why people say that he can have an impact right away, because that's stuff that, that's stuff that NFL players, have right away. When you look at Henry Ruggs, the first wide receiver taken off the board, he's fast. You can't teach speed. That's why he was the first wide receiver. That's why I thought he'd be the first wide receiver off the board. But you got to keep in mind his drop rate was very, very high. I think it was Ruggs. He had a very high drop rate. So, yeah, the speed's there. But just, be cautious, man. He had a high drop rate. So a guy like Quintez, not a very high drop rate, and he's able to adjust and make plays on the ball, which I think it's hard, But obviously from a fifth-round player to a first-round player, there's a big difference there. If they're both fifth-round, it's a different situation. So that's definitely important. He also had 16 contested receptions, which was 12th in college football. This dude he has a way to make and that's more impressive to me. If I'm being real, 16 contested receptions than really any other thing. That's more impressive to me than if you ran a 4.40, because that tells me that this dude's making plays when the dude is right on him. And if you can do that, if you can be even and you're making plays, that's huge. All right, everyone can catch the ball if they run right past them. But in the NFL, it's way harder to get deep on players than it is in college football. Right? These dudes can just be running by everybody in college football because they make a lot of mistakes. You get to the NFL, you might get a couple of those a year, and it gets everyone excited. But let's be real here. How often does a wide receiver run right by a cornerback and the safety and he's wide open? Doesn't happen super often, so they have to be able to make the grab. And the Lions right now, they have wide receivers that do that catch with their hands. They have Kenny Galladay who goes up and get it. They have Marvin Jones who makes big plays on the ball. They have Amendola who uses his hands. Think about that for a second. Every player on the Lions has great hands, all right? They may not blow you away, and everybody's like, oh yeah, we got to get that speedster, the guy that opens up the field. But do we really, though? I feel like on paper that sounds great, but honestly, a lot of those really fast wide receivers, they don't catch the ball very well, and that's why they, struggle sometimes in the NFL. We got guys that catch the football. That's what we have on the roster, and that's what we brought in. A dude that catches the football. On paper, yeah, we need a burner, but do we, though? Is Marvin Hall not the burner? I mean, seriously, think about it. We averaged, I keep bringing this up, we averaged 25.5 points per game. I think we led the league in passing yards per game before Stafford went down. We don't need a burner. We got what we got on offense. Now we're just adding to it with more depth with guys that can catch the football. That's what we need. We need guys that can make those plays in contested situations, and that's what Quintez is. That's huge. That's the difference between, him and a lot of those guys that are just fast. He may not be the most fast player, but he's going to help you day one, and he can help you because he can catch the football. And that's something that at the end of the day, you need your wide receivers to be able to do. You can be fast, but if you can't catch the football, that ain't good. That ain't good. And when you get a guy like that in the fifth round, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good pick. And that's why I was high on Isaiah Hodgins as well, because he just didn't drop the football. So his competition wasn't great, but he caught the football all the time. It was like, there's nothing bad to really say there. He might not be the most athletic. He might not be even playing the best teams, but he catches the football. And that's what I see here with Quintez. Now let's hop over to some cons, because I know some people want to hear these. Athletic limitations. Yes, he is athletically limited unless somehow he gets a lot faster. Now, I heard his pro day was a lot faster, but his official 40 time was a 4.73. Not great. It was actually the slowest out of any wide receiver. So definitely, that's something. So when you watch him, he doesn't look that fast. He's not burning anybody. Like I said, he's usually even with players and making a play on the ball. I'm not saying it's bad to be slow, but I'm saying at the same time, you can't just look at speed and say, oh, he's better because he's faster. You got to be able to catch the ball first. That is your first job as a receiver. That's why it's receptions, receiving. You're supposed to catch the football. That's your job. He does that at a high level, and I think that's a huge reason the Lions took him. And at the end, Jeffrey Okudah talked about it. Okudah's saying what I'm saying basically right now. Football's played between the lines, not in a 40 time, right? It's all about catching the football. It's all about making plays between the lines, and that's what he does. So we may not like, oh snap, look at those numbers, a 4.2, but he's catching the football so consistently, and that's at the end of the day, that's his job. He lacks a burst out of double moves. When you see him on double moves, he's kind of just slow out of it. But again, that's not what he does well. That's not what he does efficiently, and that's why I think could be a great slot wide receiver. That's why I think Quintez moves the slot, and I think that's where a lot of his attempts and targets come from in the NFL, in the National Football League level. Why? Because I think we move on from Danny Amendola after the season, and I think he slides into that slot wide receiver role because he's pretty big, right? He's got some size, which is kind of nice from the slot receiver position. He's very reliable, and that's what Matthew Stafford wants from the slot. Amendola ain't outrunning nobody, but he's super reliable, and that's why he had one of his best seasons of his career last year because Matthew Stafford finds a way to get those guys the ball. He wants guys that can catch the football reliably. When we watch Lions games, what's the most annoying thing? When the quarterback finds someone and he drops it, right? That's why everybody didn't like Ebron, because he dropped it. Was the athletic ability there? Yup. But did he drop the football all the time? Yup. And that was the big problem, right? You can always say, okay, I can't teach speed, but I can teach you to catch the football. But can you always teach him to catch the football? Because if that was the case, I feel like, Eric Ebron would still be here. You can't just teach everybody to catch a football, okay? I know you can't teach someone to be super fast, but at the end of the day, man, you either put time in and you're able to catch the football or you can't. And Quintez Cephus can catch the football. Now, I think you can improve, but this dude can catch the ball right out of college, and I think that's why he's a great pick for the Detroit Lions. They didn't throw the ball a ton. I felt like Wisconsin was a big running team with Jonathan Taylor, which makes sense because you have Jonathan freaking Taylor. Yes, I'd run the ball a ton too, and he's average blocker. That's actually one thing that I thought was kind of a big con. That was probably my biggest con. Athletic ability, okay. But my biggest con probably was his blocking ability. I didn't think he blocked that well. I think I've heard people say he could block well, but when I watched him, when he's blocking downfield for a run, I feel like he's just missing the dudes all the time. And I know it's tough, to block a cornerback out there, but it didn't look very good. So I'll say below average. I wouldn't say awful, but that's a big con for me. That's probably my biggest con. So overall, the Lions take a guy like this. When you look at who else they could have selected, I honestly can't be mad about it. I understand we all wanted DPJ, but really, I can't be mad about it. If you're saying you're taking a wide receiver, there's really I feel like he may have been the best option out there, unless you could have gotten KJ Hill in the 7th, but you maybe didn't even know he's going to fall that far. So honestly, I don't want to give another A out, you feel me? But, oh man, I do like the pick. I feel like round 5, let's think about round 5, for example. What are round 5 players to Bob Quinn? All right, that's how you grade players. You got to know what he did in round 5s. Round 5 has been very good to Bob Quinn. He's had rotational players come out of round 5. Joe Dahl. If anyone said, okay, if they said grade your round 5 picks, what would you give Joe Dahl? Whatever you give Joe Dahl, you give Quintez here because I feel like he's going to be a nice role player immediately and have a nice impact. I feel like I would give Joe Dahl an A-. I'm going to give my guy Quintez an A-. So there you go. Let me hear your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.